first loss of the season. What do you take from the Robert Morris game and apply to your preparation this week for Princeton?
Well, we certainly better take that you have to play two halves. Hard to pinpoint and never know when things are going to come out that way. But you have to credit Robert Morris. They played a tremendous first half, made a lot of plays, had a game plan, were able to execute it. Their quarterback was a lot better in his second game than certainly we saw on film in the previous game, him having missed the first two games of the season. So, again, a combination of we just did not play very well in any phase of the game in the first half, and they did, and put ourselves in a 21-point deficit. Locker room situation was very tight, so I gathered the team in the end zone before we had to make the trek up the steps, and just got everybody together and said, hey, doesn't matter how this thing ends up. What matters now is we got to find out what kind of heart this team really has. We talk about staying together. We talk about fighting to the end. I said, well, we're about to find out the next 30 minutes of football if we have any of that. And I certainly, despite the loss, certainly felt good about the way our young men came back and battled all the way back to tie it and had our chance and had some possessions where we kind of shot ourselves in the foot with some penalties. We had 9 or so penalties and 4 pre-snap penalties. 2 of those happened in the last couple critical series. You can't do that. We had personal foul that certainly that changed some field position. So we have to certainly play not just better but smarter at this point. And I think you find something else about yourself coming off that kind of loss and now coming for a home game against a football team that, nothing taken away from Robert Morris, but Princeton is a better football team than Robert Morris. Well, certainly there's always criticism to go around. That's the first place it came to, and certainly, I get enough email about those things, and I can tell you that I look at that very closely, having played the position, obviously, and coached it most of my career. I had no issue with either of the 2 running backs. I thought that Ross, particularly this game, really turned it up a notch. But there were some places to go, and then when there wasn't or it wasn't as much as he needed, he certainly put some extra into it. But both he and Vaughn, I think, have done the things that we've asked them to do, and I think we put them in better situations this past game, and I think you continue to see that kind of thing.
You feel is a better football team than Robert Morris. What specifically do they do that concerns you on both sides of the ball?
Well, I think particularly defensively, I think it's as good, if not the best defense that we're going to see. Their defensive front they play very physical, ferocious football, and they've given people a lot of trouble. I mean, they completely shut down Lehigh. Lehigh went up 17-0, and Lehigh couldn't do one thing in the second half and could have very easily lost that game. So that in its own right, to watch that and watch the consistency of which that defense is playing, which they it's always that way. They've got they've got a potential All-American, possible pro prospect in there, and their linebackers are always very physical and then athletic in the secondary as well. But this is as good a defense, like I said, as we've seen. So it's a huge challenge. Particularly, we've had our struggles offensively, but we're still, finding ourselves. I think even with the loss, we found a little bit about, what we are, who we are, and what we can do, and continue to build on that. And offensively, again, there's 2 quarterbacks in there. The one guy, 12 will maybe stay in that pocket a little bit more, whereas 4 is going to look to a lot more to run it and do those things. You got 3 running backs in there that kind of like clones are 5'9", 5'10", 200 plus pounds that can make plays. So, you look at some of the loss. You look at their Georgetown loss. Georgetown kicks a field goal in the last couple seconds of the game to win. However, Princeton snapped the ball over the punter's head, and the punter stood there and watched their guy Georgetown pick it up and score. So I'm sure, the Coach Therese is going, there's another loss that we just stood there and watched, get away. So it's a good football team. They very well could be, certainly better than that at this point, and I'm sure they think that. And hey, they've dominated the series over the years, and they've won 5 straight. So we certainly have nothing to be feeling all terrific about, other than that we know it's going to be a hard-nosed, physical team we're going to face, and we're coming home, and we got to play a lot better.